It's vintage
digital. It sounds warmer.
Plugin, yeah.
The zeros and ones are rounder, you know?
Especially the ones. Hi everybody! Today I have the great pleasure of being at Robin Schmidt's place at 2496 Mastering. We have been working for half an eternity together, and he's a Grammy-nominated, multiple platinum, multiple gold winning mastering engineer. He has worked for artists such as the 1975, James Arthur, Aurora, Biffy Clyro, Yungblud. I can't name them all, so it's a very big pleasure to be here today. Hello, Robin.
Hi!
And we're going to have a little chat about mastering. The thing that most of my clients would ask as first thing would be not what is mastering, but what can a mastering engineer do that a mixing engineer can't?
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, difficult. Well, listen to the song or the songs when everything is finished and be on the outside of it. So have a fresh attitude, have a fresh view on things, maybe not look at the individual instruments, but look at the whole thing. Just, you come to me, you have one album for me, and that album may consist of 10 songs. That's all I see. I don't view any deeper than that, and so I can really concentrate on that.
Do you often get stem mastering?
Not so much. I sometimes get the request, but I always try to tell people that I rather prefer to work with stereo, so that I don't get in the habit of mixing, that I don't repeat what the artist tried to do in mixing, but that we present the mix in the best way, not rearrange it. Then the mixer will also be more likely to bring the mix to the very end, to do those little details.
Commit to
it,
yes.
To do the automation, you know. Don't skip the automation because you think, well, the mastering engineer will work with the stems later on anyway. But rather, you know, if the second verse needs the vocals to be 0.3 dB quieter, do it.
Yes.
To me, those last little bits at the end of a mix are sort of what takes a decent mix or a good mix to a real great mix, to a work of art. And I don't want to miss that. And that I cannot do. So that's easier for me to say, what can a mastering engineer do what a mix engineer can't? That's hard to answer, but I can tell you what I can't do. So I can't or don't want to do the mixing part. It's not my vision. It's someone else's vision.
Yes.
And I try to listen to it, to feel that vision and see, okay, they nailed it. I don't need to do anything or not much. Or if I say, I know what they wanted to do, but I know how I can slightly better get there, you know, that's what I want to do.
Another thing is that sometimes I get asked to export stems as well, and I always tell people the sum of the stems is not equal to the mix, especially if you have some mix bus processing going on. So how would that then be handled? Like, would you ask them to leave on the mix bus compression, for example, although the compressors won't be triggered correctly anymore?
That's also one of the reasons why I'm generally in favor of working with a stereo mix to actually get the mix vision, because the stems very often will differ slightly.
Yeah.
I can tell you, for example, a while ago, the 1975 had their debut album remixed to Atmos.
Okay.
By Andrew Sheps.
Oh, okay.
Great guy. But he had the trouble, so he needed to remix for Atmos from the stems. I had done the original mastering, and during this mastering process, or even before that, they actually used analog tape machines for mix relay, but not for stem relay.
Ah, so there was a lot of the sound missing.
Yes, and during that time, the producer, Mike Rossi, also changed the speed of the songs slightly. Did a few tryouts with vary pitch from tape machines and stuff like that. And that
for the original mix, and all that stuff was missing.
All that stuff was missing. So it was quite a big task, and I commend Andrew for getting that done. That must have been a mammoth task. So stems are never ideal. hardly ever, because who mixes without any mix bus processing?
I think I remembered somebody, I think it was Mark Daniel Nelson, a mixer that I really like, that he has like a complex setup of his mixing session that is also always thinking about putting out stems, and he has some kind of sidechain triggering from tracks that is that are not actually playing during exporting stems, but still trigger the mix bus compression, which is actually really clever. But if you're just mixing a song and don't think about stem exporting, who would have this level of complexity in the mix?
That's right.
Does it happen that you don't touch a mix at all? That you say it's just perfect and you're just like the or only the control?
If you're working with a great mixer and they say, we really like the sound of the mix, if nothing needs to be done, then don't change anything. Then maybe I see if I can get half a dB louder or a dB louder, something, while making it sound the same or slightly better. What I want to say is, a great mastering engineer is the person who knows what will be needed. So sometimes you really get in there and you have to automate things and have some mid-side EQing only on bar 32 to get the guitar to shine really in that one phrase. Oh, that can happen, but very often it's also, you wouldn't do that because it's already perfect, and you're working with a person who really doesn't want you to change everything or reinvent the wheel. Sometimes, the best mastering engineer is the one who always makes the right decision as to how much change is needed, if any at all.
Let's assume I send you in, let's call it a crappy mix. What are you going to do? Are you going to master it anyway?
I would be nice and diplomatic and careful to check out how much you are married to that mix, how much that is really what you want, or if something went wrong.
But if you already ask, did something go wrong with your mix, or is that blah blah blah?
Well, I don't ask like that. But I might
need
ask
to be
you,
careful with artists.
Yes, of course, because the thing is, just because I think a mix isn't good doesn't mean that it is good. It's still art and it's very subjective. And one person's lo-fi can be another person's crappy mix.
Totally.
Or one person's great mix can be another person's, no, I don't get it. Even if the mix isn't great, that might be where the person is at, and that might be really important to them, especially if it's a hobby artist. That might be their growth, that might be their thing, or it might be great like it is. I'm not judging.
Another thing that some people may ask themselves is if they have to send in a mix for mastering. There was always the saying, yeah, it has to be -6 dB. You have to remove all bus processing and have to remove all limiting. Otherwise, the mastering engineer cannot work. How is reality?
I very much disagree with that statement. I know that's was often said, but maybe it was said as a reaction to getting very hot or very processed mixes.
Crunchy mixes.
But for me, the most important thing is to hear the mix like the artist has heard it, like the mixer has heard it while mixing, like it was approved. So that to me is the mix. That's what I want to hear. Then additionally to that, maybe you can bounce a version without the last bit of limiting on it, so that I might be able to improve on it. There's little point in me getting a mix that has everything taken off the mix bus, but now sounds different to what everyone heard. For example, what you get quite often these days is that you get a nice and dynamic mix with the vocals 3 dBs too quiet, with a kick snare balance not being right, where you take the limiter off and suddenly the snare's 2 dB louder and the kick is, 2 dB quieter, something like that. So in those cases, I very much want the limited mix. I need to hear what everyone heard, what everyone approved, what actually sounds like you want it. Because otherwise I have to guess.
If you could choose from mixers using bus compression and limiting and doing whatever they do, or if you could say, no, you should not use anything at all from the start, which one would you like? Would you prefer to get much more dynamic mixes, or do you enjoy working with baked in compression, bus processing?
I would say the second one. I want with everything baked in. I want the mix, and that usually, if that's your way of working, has everything in it. But if during mixing you're wondering, well, how should I mix? Should I have a limiter on the mix? That's up to you to decide. There I might say, well, if you can make a great sounding mix without a limiter on the end, that's kind of cool. That's better. So, but in the end, whichever way you decide to work, I want the end result of that. I just wanted to say, the way that you like to work, which is on the mix bus, open a session with already your processing on it, the way you set it up, that you can mix into it, push into it, that's not really such a new thing. You know, before people mixed into limiters, which have become much more compressors over time, or have compressor sections added onto them. You did have the SSL compressors, the bus compressors that people love to mix into. Even before then, you mixed into tape and started to really push it so that you get tape saturation or tape compression going on. So it has a long tradition, let's say, and I think it's very hard. You have to go back very hard to try and find any recordings that don't make use of some sort of non-linearity in the medium they're going on to, if it's by a device like a compressor or if it's just the medium you're mixing onto.
Yeah. And you get a lot of top-notch stuff, but probably also from amateur musicians. Is there one thing in general that you say, me as a mastering engineer, I hear this and this and this all the time, and I would really wish you wouldn't do this?
You know, no, I don't think so. From a workflow perspective, one of my pet peeves is actually getting a very dynamic mix that's got some limiter taken off the end, where what I'm getting is not actually the mix anymore. And then I have to write back or phone back or say like, hey, by any chance, was there also a loud version or another version that everyone heard? If so, can you send me that? If not, don't worry. But that adds a lot of going back and forth.
I usually send you like what I call the client reference mix, and then the -2 or -3 or whatever mix. So is that what you would wish everyone to do? Like send me whatever the client approved or the artist approved, plus maybe like a safety version or something.
Yeah, that's what I would like.
Do you sometimes get like 6 different versions of a mix and they say like, choose one?
Yeah, sometimes.
Or what do? Do you say, no, you choose one? Because that's maybe what I would say is like, if people send me like tracks to mix and say like, yeah, and I added 5 different vocal takes and you can just take the best.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, then I would probably say, well, do one compiled version, choose whatever you want, and maybe add the other ones as a backup just in case I run into trouble somewhere. But how would you handle this with?
I would also try to get some sort of decision from the client. Don't bet your money that I will make a better decision than you could. You're the artist. You know, at the end of the day, you have to go with what works for you. If it really doesn't make a difference for you, it probably doesn't make a difference for me either.
Do you have like a go-to, how do you say, method? And do you first like do some gain staging or leveling between tracks and then right away analog, digital, blah, blah, blah?
I don't know if it's much of a method, but I think, well, first of all, simpler is usually better in processing and in workflows and in how you approach a project. So if you have the luxury of getting everything you need before you start working, you do your work and the work is finished. If you have that sort of luxury and it's a simple, straightforward process, you would start by making one sort of arrangement or montage or something like that and just line up all your tracks. You might start by leveling them, listen through them, not completely, but, you know, a few minutes of each song and see what you got there. Switch between them once you've leveled to see, oh, okay, then you get a feel for how the differences are, where the strengths are. You might even find that if you get to live with a song for a few minutes, that, oh, one thing that I first thought might be problematic, actually that's kind of cool. That's kind of a sonic thing it's got going on. So,
so you don't grab right away. It's like, I hear resonance, remove everything.
No.
You give it a chance.
Yeah, not unless it's really blatant. Something you might do is if for example, you're lining up the tracks and you're doing a very general gain between the tracks. One thing you might notice is that, that one song has so much bass, has 6 dB too much bass, and you can pretty confidently say it, well, whoever mixed that or heard that was probably in a bad room and it just doesn't work. And then you might start by, okay, I put the EQ on so that I can level it to get it more in the range of having the right bass response, roughly.
That would probably be then a plug-in EQ, so that you can have it within the session.
Yeah, absolutely. What I will do quite often is when I have an album and it's reasonably similar in sonic signature, that you do all the spot processing digitally, for example, so that when you go from song to song or even section to section, or
a little notch here, a little something.
Yeah, or like we talked before, if in bar number 42 I want to increase volume of the guitar on the right hand side, I will do that digitally, but like a little bit of overall compression and breathing, or a little bit of air, or a little bit of let's say stereo widening or dynamically stereo widening, things like that might work over the whole album. With the analog you tend to be a lot more general and a lot more consistent.
Sure.
Whereas with digital you tend to get a little bit lost in the details, so you might do too much or you might be too fussy, but you can take the best of each world essentially.
Can I assume correctly that if you need to do some more heavy lifting, that you would do this in digital?
Yeah.
So the analog is more like the 0.01 dB that we are all doing jokes about when we're talking about mastering EQ. Is like,
change that to 0.5 dB and you're right. Rather a 1 or a 2 or a 0.5 dB boost or cut, that would rather be in the analog domain.
I must laugh because if I look at EQs in a mix, that sometimes is like, if it needs to be like a 20 dB boost or cut, then I really don't give a flying F about it. So, but in mastering, I think the EQ doesn't even, what's on the Sontec here, what is the maximum that you get? Oh, 9 dB.
9 dB,
that's more than I expected.
Well, they actually do a version with less. On this version of the Sontec EQ, the first dBs are in half dB steps, and then you get to complete dB steps. On the Focusrite mastering EQ, the first dB is actually in 0.3 dB steps.
0.3. I once did an interesting test with a friend of mine. I made a bunch of blind A/B tests we tried cables, speakers and stuff, and I never told him what I was changing. I just said, listen to A and B, so he could switch on the desk, and just tell me what you hear without knowing what I even changed. And one interesting thing was that I took the exact same song and I just put it 0.1 dB, so 0.1 dB down. And you know what he said is like, the louder was like, yeah, you have more treble, you have more bass, it's so much more blah. All the stuff that you would hear in hi-fi communities. And the only difference was 0.1 dB. He didn't guess wrong. The plus 0.1 dB was the better one. So it's not just in your head. It's really like it makes a difference.
And volume is very powerful like that. You can very easily interpret things into it. And the 0.1 dB step obviously is pretty small. I once did an A/B session just myself, like a blind ABX software tool. And here in the studio, I think the smallest I successfully identified, I didn't try any further, but was 0.04 dB.
What?
And in a very good listening environment where there's nothing going on.
0.04 dB?
Yeah.
How do you even make a change that small? In Pro Tools, I have only the possibility to go 0.1 dB. But
well, Wavelab can do it, and very many plugins can do it too.
That's mastering stuff. We mix engineers, we don't get to such fine degree. But that's impressive. Do you hear big difference between, let's say, 44.1 and 96 kilohertz?
I don't know, actually. I haven't A/B'd it. Like, I could very easily now tell you, well, yes, it's a huge difference.
No, I want the honest.
No, it's but I will tell you, obviously I heard many different files in different resolutions, even of the same song, but I have not done any blind ABX, and I know that you need to test this blindly, otherwise you will be imagining things.
ABX is the
You
way to
will,
go.
you will. Like, for example, I can tell you the Avalon EQ here. This is the Avalon 2077. Before that, I had the Avalon 2055. When I did get this, I preferred the 2055 ever so slightly. And I wanted to know why before I sold the 2055 on. You know, I wanted to retain that. But because they use the same op-amp modules inside. Mm-hmm. They have boards and they use the same. So I just thought, okay, I have this 2077, I'll use the 2055 op-amps and see if that changes the sound. And I thought it did. Until I ABX'd it, then I found that the difference in sound with the op-amps is either not there or small enough that I can't blindly identify it. So then I knew, okay.
You were biased by, as soon as you see what you're doing, then it's like, this reminds me of the thing that happened to everyone, is like turning on the bypassed whatever, and you turn it and you clearly hear what's going on, but you just fooled yourself. So.
Yeah, I still kind of want to believe that I kind of want to believe that the op-amps from my old 2055 Avalon did sound different, but that the difference was so small.
But they may
then
have.
Again,
but if I guess if you have like 2 times the 2077 side by side, that they would also sound a little bit different.
Yeah,
so
potentially
different age tolerance of
and age, obviously.
Yeah.
But the thing is, keep in mind, either there is no difference or the difference is so small that you can't identify it. So then you know, I'll let it go. Obviously, it's wasting time to think about that if you can't really.
I think getting this in your head, not only as a mastering engineer, but also running a studio or something, really, if you see that sometimes spending so much more money on something that just gives you the tiny little bit more, or you think it gives you something, that you can really save a huge amount of money by just simplifying your thoughts and knowing that there are so much more difference that you can make in other parts by just turning the knob a little bit more or something.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Only this one plugin, I'm going to buy this one more, and it's going to change everything.
I actually gave a mastering workshop yesterday, and I told the students essentially the same thing, which I find to be very useful for myself. When you get down to the point in any session where you just can't decide, should it be the plus 0.5 dB boost or the plus 1 dB high boost. If the thing that you're stuck on gets small enough, set an endpoint for yourself. Also with equipment, and it gets so much easier when you're working on other people's stuff. That's the other thing to consider, because I always work on other people's music and they are rarely here. I mostly work alone. And so when the difference becomes small enough, you know, okay, I can make a fine decision here. When you're working on your own songs or with the artist, I know that's
you have too many options.
You have too many options, and people have a hard time letting go.
I see this also in recording. People recording themselves, they make 10 times more takes when they are with me in the studio. Then I say, take was fine.
Yeah,
so, really, but it was only 2 takes. Yeah, but the first was already good. The second was.
There's the old image. Philosophical image of the donkey starving himself to death because he can't decide which stack of hay to eat because they're equal size. And that's always the thing, like, if the stacks of hay are equal size, just pick one, don't think about it.
If we want to give like advice to less experienced engineers who often struggle with, I don't know when my mix is done, or I don't know when my master is done, do you have some bit of wisdom for them?
It's hard to give advice to someone who's on their own journey. That's the thing. That's why I'm saying when you're working on your own things, especially if you don't yet have that much experience with it, it's really hard to know when to be done. Advice from someone more experienced can help a lot.
A feedback or something.
Yeah.
Was like,
or just gathering more experience by working on more different projects over time, and it'll become clearer and clearer when you're done.
Also working, if you're recording yourself and an aspiring recording mix mastering engineer, don't only work on your own stuff. I think that's very important. Also work for other people and get like a fresh perspective and not be stuck in your own universe.
Yeah, that's true.
But talking about getting good advice, if you could give your younger self advice from looking from today, what would that be?
Oh, I would need to think about this. Not because I think that I did everything right or that I'm somehow great, but because everyone has their own journey, and just things take time, and you can't always skip steps, and you can't, as someone who's trying to raise kids, you realize that not every bit of learning can be communicated through advice. Trust me. Trust me, sometimes great advice is not fit to be given, but needs to be learned by everyone themselves.
And you also learn by making mistakes, probably more than by doing things right.
Yes, probably. And getting the consequences not only for your own success, but also for your own failures, essentially. Bearing the cost, you learn really quick.
And these are lessons that you don't forget so quickly, definitely. It was not what I expected you to say, but it was a far better answer, if I'm being honest, yeah. The more I think about it, yeah, you have to grind your own teeth.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Quick response question. So I have like a couple of questions. It's like more or less A or B, and you have to decide or give me a quick answer without thinking too much about it.
I'll try, but don't judge me too harshly.
Let's see. Okay. A piece of gear you wish you had, but you don't have it.
Oh, the palindrometer by Funk Logic.
I have it.
I know.
I have it.
And it's awesome.
And it's the
I
best.
wish I had it.
My mixes sound so much better since I have it. If you don't know what that is, look it up.
Yeah.
Your favorite piece of hardware?
The Sontec EQ, definitely.
Your favorite plugin?
The PL PAR EQ.
What's the specialty about it?
Well, it's from Refined Audiometrics Lab. It's actually no longer made, and it hasn't been made for probably 10 years or something.
It's vintage. It's vintage digital.
It sounds warmer.
Digital plugin.
The zeros and ones are rounder,
Especially the ones. If you had to choose to only use a compressor or an EQ for mastering, you only could have one of those tools, what would it be?
Definitely EQ.
Do you use reference tracks when mastering?
No, not really. The artist's own reference tracks, of course, if they send them along, or their previous work, if I'm spanning multiple albums or multiple release cycles for an album, for an artist. I find that that's really, really useful. It helps artists too, because their lives are so hectic, and I'm like a point of reference.
Felt in the branding.
Felt in the branding. I stay the same, and the listening environment here stays the same. So if I can give them more consistency over time, I do that, and they usually appreciate it.
If you weren't mastering, what would you do?
At this point in my life, I find a lot of things interesting. My wife runs a catering business for a school. I find that really interesting.
It's awesome. I've been there. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. And I love to be involved there. I love to
you could imagine
give foods
running
to kids or like, that's a great thing. Cool. But I could also, anything. Look, I mean, Brian May, guitarist of Queen, who has a degree in astrophysics. I'm not clever enough for that. But there are so many things you can get into. And once you get into the details and figure out how things run, that becomes really interesting. So at this point in my life, just about anything that I can get my head into. If it were before that, let's say in my 20s, something like that, it would be something like, well, I love mixing. Also, I love producing. I love recording for other people.
No audio-related stuff.
Oh dear. But then, it could also be video editing. It could be something else artistic, something to do with aesthetics, because my job comes down to judging aesthetics that other people present me. And I I often found it when watching a TV show where I thought like, okay, I know what they're trying to do, but the color grading or the picture quality or that just, it doesn't transport the feeling that they want to go for. So something aesthetic.
Okay. Do you still listen to music
Outside of work?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Do you listen to stuff you mastered or do you listen to
No, other music.
other music?
I also a few times I listened to music I mastered. You'll know this, but Muso.ai has a great feature where they compile all the songs that they know that you're credited on into a Spotify playlist.
That would be a long list for you. By the way, talking about Muso is collecting all kind of streaming data. So the stuff you've worked on has gathered almost 100 billion streams already. I was so proud to have like 200 million, which I found was pretty nice, but 100 billion streams. So there you know, there's a lot of stuff going through Robin's hands. And by the way, did you know that you mastered almost 600 mixes of mine?
There you go. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so over 20 years or something.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
And it's much more than that even.
Yeah,
Because
these are the official Spotify released songs. There must be more like underground bands that.
No, but I really enjoy long time working relationships. Just because, you know, if you know someone for such a long period of time, if it's an artist or a mixer.
You can tell him that his snare sucks without.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, but also look, when I listen to something we did together, 20 years ago, sure, why not?
It sucks as much as today.
No, well, we joke about that. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, that's funny. But, you know, actually, I'm surprised by how good it is. Not how good your mix is.
How good the master is.
Yeah, to a certain extent, because you always think of yourself on, well, when I was 20 years ago, I didn't know jack shit, you know?
Yeah, sometimes you're really surprised. Open
You're
up
surprised.
a really old session and you think like, okay,
Really?
for the resource that you had. I remember
Yeah.
when I started with Pro Tools, I could open like 20 plugins and then it was the end. There was no more CPU left. So you really had to make and I made complete albums in a session. So I had like 20 plugins.
That was it, yeah.
That was it for the complete complete album.
That was back when Pro Tools didn't know how to handle stereo tracks.
Yes, that's not so long ago even.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's sometimes it's amazing what you were able to do with such limited resource.
But that's the thing I wanted to say before about the Muso.ai playlist is that you listen to a playlist of all the songs that you've worked on. Obviously, you can't listen to everything, but that's surprisingly consistent. I would have thought there would be more variance because it's all different artists.
Speaks for the work, yeah.
Yeah, and
Or
it's
for
over a
for the
span
style
of
that you
25 years or something like that. You hear a lot of stuff, but you find like, oh yeah, it all works. Nothing sounds out of place. You could see a thread going through it if people say that mixers or mastering engineers have a certain style or preference. Maybe that's true. And maybe you see it in that you can say like, well, okay, I've kind of over the time worked to my likings. So, you know.
Good.
But I suspect, I haven't done that, but if you do the same with your Muso.ai playlist, I suspect you'll find the same thing, that even when you listen, when a 20-year-old mix comes on, that you'll be surprised how good it works. It's really cool.
If you mastered it. Okay, so now our quick answer
it wasn't really quick.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. I'm way too talkative. Yeah, sorry for that.
But I hope it was entertaining anyway. So we had a nice chat. We won't stretch it any longer. I think we could talk for like 16.75 hours more, but we don't want to bore the audience. So if you like this little conversation, give Robin a like, not me. Give me a subscribe just to see maybe more of Robin in future videos. And yeah, thank you for watching and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.